Black Dolphin Prison is Russia's most high-security prison, designed for the most violent criminals. Black Dolphin Prison, officially known as the Federal Penitentiary Institution Agony Ostrov, is one of the most notorious maximum security facilities in the world. It is located in the Orenburg region of Russia, near the border with Kazakhstan, in a remote and isolated area where escape is virtually impossible. The prison's name, Black Dolphin, originates from a statue of a black dolphin, sculpted by Inmates, which sits at the entrance as a grim reminder of the fate that awaits those who cross its threshold. This facility is specifically designed to house Russia's most dangerous criminals, those who have committed the worst offenses imaginable. Its inmates include serial killers, child rapists, terrorists, and cannibals, men whose crimes have shocked the nation and who are deemed too dangerous to ever be reintegrated into society. The prison operates under the strictest security measures, ensuring that these individuals pose no further threat to the outside world. Unlike other maximum security prisons, where some level of rehabilitation or reintegration is considered, Black Dolphin serves only one purpose: to isolate and contain criminals who will never be allowed freedom again. Once an inmate is sentenced to Black Dolphin, they are there for life. This prison does not house those serving temporary or shorter sentences. Instead, it is reserved exclusively for those whom the Russian justice system has deemed beyond redemption. Security at Black Dolphin is among the tightest in the world. The prison is designed in such a way that there is virtually no opportunity for escape or rebellion. Inmates are under constant surveillance, monitored 24/7 through an intricate system of cameras and guards. The facility itself is heavily fortified with multiple layers of security, including perimeter fences, armed patrols, and reinforced walls. The layout of Black Dolphin is also designed to prevent prisoners from understanding the structure of the prison. Inmates are never allowed to see the outside world, and when they're moved from their cells, they are blindfolded and forced to march in a bent-over position with their hands cuffed behind their backs. This posture not only physically subdues them, but also prevents them from memorizing the layout of the prison, making escape virtually impossible. The living conditions inside Black Dolphin are among the harshest in the world. Prisoners are locked in small, windowless cells for 23 hours a day, with only 1 hour allocated for exercise in a confined, heavily monitored space. Each cell has 2 layers of bars, effectively making them cells within cells. There is no privacy, no personal belongings, and no outside communication beyond strict, regulated visits. Inmates are referred to only by numbers rather than names, stripping them of any personal identity. There is no parole, no chance of a reduced sentence, and no appeals process that could result in a prisoner's release. Once inside Black Dolphin, inmates know they will die behind its walls. The prison serves as a stark example of Russia's uncompromising stance on dealing with the most dangerous criminals, and its reputation as one of the toughest prisons in the world is well-earned. It houses murderers, serial killers, terrorists, and cannibals with no chance of parole. Black Dolphin Prison is not just any maximum security facility. It is the final destination for Russia's most dangerous and notorious criminals. Unlike other prisons where inmates may have a chance at parole or rehabilitation, those who are sent to Black Dolphin are considered beyond redemption. They are locked away for life, with no possibility of ever rejoining society. The prison houses individuals who have committed the most heinous crimes imaginable. Many of them are serial killers who have taken dozens of lives in brutal and calculated ways. Some are terrorists responsible for mass casualties, including bombings, assassinations, and other acts of extreme violence. Others are child rapists, kidnappers, and even cannibals, men who have shocked the nation with their inhumanity. These criminals are considered too dangerous to be placed in regular maximum security prisons, and Black Dolphin is their final confinement, where they will spend the remainder of their days under the tightest surveillance and strictest control. One of the most infamous aspects of Black Dolphin is its absolute lack of leniency. There is no possibility of parole or early release. Russian law ensures that the individuals housed here serve their full life sentences with no chance of appeal. Many of these prisoners were given the death penalty before Russia abolished it, and instead of execution, they were sentenced to life imprisonment in Black Dolphin. This means that, effectively, this prison is a living death sentence, where inmates are stripped of all hope of freedom. To understand the sheer severity of the crimes committed by Black Dolphin's inmates, one only needs to look at their case histories. Many of these men have committed atrocities that defy comprehension. Some inmates have killed entire families, showing no remorse for their actions. Others have carried out acts of torture and sadistic violence that would be considered unthinkable by most people. In some cases, the criminals housed in Black Dolphin were leaders of organized crime syndicates responsible for ordering countless murders and acts of terrorism. Cannibalism is another disturbing factor among the crimes of some Black Dolphin inmates. There have been cases where prisoners have not only murdered their victims, but have also eaten their remains. The sheer horror of their crimes places them among the most feared criminals in Russia. The Russian government deems them unfit to ever walk free again, and thus they are sent to Black Dolphin, where they will spend the rest of their lives in total isolation. What makes Black Dolphin different from other maximum security prisons is that it does not differentiate between criminals in terms of the severity of their life sentence. Whether a prisoner has killed 5 people or 50, whether they were a lone serial killer or a terrorist responsible for mass destruction, they are all treated the same, completely isolated from the outside world and subjected to the same brutal conditions. Once a prisoner enters Black Dolphin, their fate is sealed. They become just another number in the system, no longer recognized by name. The Russian authorities ensure that these criminals are never given a second chance. For the most violent offenders, Black Dolphin is more than just a prison. It is their final destination, a place where they will slowly waste away, never to be heard from again. Inmates are under 24-hour surveillance and must follow strict routines. Life inside Black Dolphin Prison is dictated by an unforgiving and rigid routine that leaves no room for personal freedom or deviation. From the moment an inmate arrives, they are subjected to a level of control that is unmatched by most other prisons in the world. Every second of their day is monitored, and every movement is dictated by strict regulations designed to break their will and maintain absolute discipline. One of the most defining aspects of Black Dolphin is its 24-hour surveillance system. Every inmate is watched at all times through a network of high-tech security cameras and frequent in-person inspections by guards. There is no privacy, no moments of solitude. Prisoners are constantly observed to ensure that they do not attempt to harm themselves, escape, or engage in any form of noncompliance. The prison staff is trained to maintain strict control over every inmate, ensuring that no disorder or rebellion can ever occur. Even when prisoners are inside their cells, they are never truly alone. Guards conduct routine inspections every 15 minutes, checking on each inmate to ensure compliance. These inspections happen throughout the day and night, making it impossible for inmates to ever feel a sense of normalcy or rest. If a prisoner so much as looks out of line or fails to respond when ordered, they face immediate and severe consequences. The constant monitoring creates a psychological strain that slowly erodes any sense of self-autonomy. The daily routine inside Black Dolphin is harsh and relentless. The day begins early, long before sunrise. Prisoners are expected to wake up at 6 a.m. sharp, and from that moment, their day is fully structured with no room for personal decisions. They are given specific times for eating, exercising, and completing whatever minimal tasks are assigned to them. There is no unstructured free time, no recreational activities, and no opportunity for personal pursuits. Food is provided at set intervals, and the meals are kept basic, just enough to sustain the prisoners, but never enough to provide comfort. There are no luxuries, no access to extra food, and no way for prisoners to request anything outside of what is assigned to them. They eat in their cells under strict supervision, with guards watching their every move. Exercise is limited and tightly controlled. Each prisoner is given exactly 1 hour per day to leave their cell for physical activity. However, this is not a normal outdoor recreation period. Instead, exercise takes place in a small, heavily monitored enclosed area, where prisoners can move but are still under constant watch. They're not allowed to interact with anyone else, and their movements are restricted. This hour of physical activity is not for their well-being, but to ensure they remain physically capable of enduring their confinement. When prisoners are moved from their cells, they must follow an extreme security protocol. Unlike in other prisons where inmates can walk normally within designated areas, Black Dolphin enforces a humiliating and physically exhausting transport method. Prisoners are blindfolded, handcuffed behind their backs, and forced to bend at a 90-degree angle while being marched by guards. This posture is deliberately enforced to prevent prisoners from memorizing the prison's layout and to keep them in a position of submission at all times. If an inmate fails to comply with this protocol, they are met with immediate force and discipline. Conversations between inmates are strictly prohibited. They are not allowed to speak unless directly addressed by a guard or prison official. This isolation from human interaction is designed to break their spirits over time. By depriving them of normal socialization, the prison ensures that they lose any sense of identity or personal agency. The only words they are allowed to say are responses to orders given by guards. Black Dolphin's strict surveillance and rigid routines serve a singular purpose: to make sure that inmates have no power, no control, and no hope of ever resisting the system. By keeping them under constant observation and eliminating all personal freedoms, the prison turns them into mere shadows of their former selves, stripped of their past lives, their identities, and any sense of future. They are transported blindfolded and forced to march in a bent-over position to prevent escape attempts. At Black Dolphin Prison, security is paramount, and every measure is taken to ensure that inmates remain completely subdued and disoriented at all times. One of the most striking and physically demanding aspects of the prison's control system is the way inmates are transported within the facility. Unlike in other high-security prisons, where inmates may be shackled and escorted by guards, Black Dolphin enforces an extreme transport method designed to break prisoners both mentally and physically. Whenever an inmate needs to be moved, whether it is for questioning, medical examinations, or routine transfers, they're subjected to a strict and degrading protocol. The moment they leave their cell, they are immediately blindfolded and placed into a submissive position. Their hands are cuffed behind their backs, and they're forced to bend at a 90-degree angle while guards hold them by their arms and shoulders. In this position, they are marched through the prison corridors with their heads facing downward, unable to see anything around them. This method of movement is not just about physical restraint. It is a psychological weapon. The blindfold prevents inmates from memorizing the layout of the prison, making it impossible for them to plan an escape. Unlike in other prisons where inmates may become familiar with hallways, gates, and exits over time, Black Dolphin ensures that no prisoner ever knows exactly where they are or how to navigate the facility. The bent-over position serves multiple purposes. First, it places the inmate in a physically exhausting and submissive posture, reinforcing their complete lack of control. Maintaining this stance for prolonged periods is painful and draining, ensuring that inmates are too weak to resist. The position also lowers their field of vision, making it impossible for them to identify pathways or security weaknesses. By keeping them in this state of disorientation, the prison removes any sense of autonomy or resistance. The process is carried out swiftly and with precision. Guards, who are highly trained in controlling dangerous inmates, do not allow for hesitation or defiance. The moment an order is given for transport, the prisoner is forced into position, and the movement begins without delay. If an inmate resists or fails to comply immediately, they are met with overwhelming force, reinforcing the fact that disobedience is not an option. This extreme transport method also serves as a constant reminder of the power structure within Black Dolphin. The inmates are never allowed to feel as though they have even the slightest control over their environment. Whether they have been in the prison for months or decades, they must submit to the same process every single time they leave their cell. There are no exceptions, no privileges, and no moments where they are allowed to walk freely. Another important reason for this method is preventing any possibility of coordinated escape attempts. In most prisons, inmates can observe their surroundings when they are transported, allowing them to mentally map out routes, weaknesses in security, or blind spots. However, at Black Dolphin, every move is designed to ensure that inmates remain completely unaware of their location within the facility. Even if they were to somehow overpower a guard, they would have no idea where to go, as they have never seen the layout of the prison. Beyond its security functions, this practice also has a deep psychological impact on inmates. The repetitive and humiliating nature of being marched like this breaks their sense of self-worth over time. They are not treated as individuals, nor are they given the dignity of normal human movement. Every transport reinforces their status as mere numbers within the prison system, stripped of personal identity and subjected to total control. This method of movement is just one of many ways that Black Dolphin ensures absolute domination over its inmates, making it one of the most feared and inescapable prisons in the world. Cells have multiple security layers, including a cell within a cell. At Black Dolphin Prison, security is designed to be impenetrable. Every aspect of the facility is constructed with one goal in mind: ensuring that inmates are completely isolated, controlled, and incapable of escape. One of the most defining features of this prison is its double-layered cell system, often referred to as a cell within a cell. This structure adds an additional layer of security, making it nearly impossible for prisoners to break free or even interact with the outside world in any way. Each inmate's living space consists of 2 sets of reinforced steel bars, one set enclosing the actual cell, and another set positioned outside of it, creating a second barrier between the prisoner and the rest of the facility. This double-cell system ensures that even if an inmate were to somehow bypass the first layer, they would still be trapped behind the second. This design is a major reason why no one has ever escaped from Black Dolphin Prison. The cells themselves are small, cramped, and completely bare. Each measures approximately 4 square meters, 43 square feet, providing just enough space for a small bed, a table, and a stool, all of which are bolted to the floor to prevent any possibility of their use as weapons or escape tools. There are no windows that provide a view of the outside world, only a small, heavily reinforced peephole that allows guards to monitor inmates without opening the door. Prisoners are never left alone, even within their own cells. Surveillance cameras watch them 24/7, and guards conduct routine inspections every 15 minutes, day and night. This constant monitoring ensures that inmates have no opportunity to plan an escape, harm themselves, or engage in any unauthorized activity. The psychological impact of this perpetual surveillance is immense. Prisoners are stripped of any sense of privacy or autonomy. In addition to the double-barred security system, the doors of each cell are built with multiple locking mechanisms, requiring authorization and coordinated efforts from multiple guards to open. Unlike in lower security prisons, where inmates might be allowed to interact with guards through small openings in their doors, Black Dolphin's system eliminates all unnecessary interaction, reinforcing the feeling of total isolation. The prison's architects designed the cell within a cell system with maximum security in mind. The extra layer of bars serves as a psychological barrier as well as a physical one. Even when an inmate stands at the very edge of their confinement, they are still separated from the rest of the world by another layer of steel. This visual and physical separation deepens the sense of helplessness and serves as a constant reminder that there is no escape. Additionally, the prison does not allow inmates to have any personal items beyond the bare essentials. There are no books, no televisions, and no access to newspapers or other forms of outside communication. The only time prisoners receive any external information is through state-approved, controlled sources. This extreme deprivation is meant to break the prisoner's spirit and enforce complete obedience. Even basic movements within the cell are heavily regulated. Prisoners must stand at attention when guards approach, and they are not allowed to lie on their beds during the day. Every aspect of their existence is governed by strict rules, ensuring that they remain under absolute control at all times. The double-layered security system inside Black Dolphin is a perfect representation of Russia's harshest penal philosophy. It does not just confine prisoners. It buries them within a fortress of steel, surveillance, and absolute control, ensuring that once they enter, they are never truly free again. Prisoners are denied personal identity, referred to only by numbers. One of the most psychologically devastating aspects of Black Dolphin Prison is the complete erasure of personal identity. From the moment an inmate enters the facility, they are stripped of everything that once defined them as individuals: their name, their past, their personal belongings, and any sense of self-worth. Inside Black Dolphin, prisoners are no longer people. They are merely numbers, existing only within the confines of their assigned cells under the total control of the Russian penal system. Unlike other prisons where inmates may be addressed by their names or inmate ID numbers alongside their personal information, Black Dolphin completely removes any reference to a prisoner's past identity. Guards and prison officials refer to inmates only by their designated number, reinforcing the idea that they are no longer individuals with histories, families, or futures. This method serves a dual purpose. It dehumanizes the prisoners, making them easier to control, and it psychologically breaks them down, stripping them of any remaining self-respect or hope. The process of erasing an inmate's identity begins immediately upon arrival. The prisoner is subjected to the infamous Black Dolphin transport method, blindfolded, shackled, and marched in a bent-over position before being processed into the system. During this intake process, their personal history no longer matters. It does not matter if they were once infamous criminals or if their crimes made national headlines. Once they step through the gates of Black Dolphin, they are reduced to nothing more than a case file with a number attached to it. Prisoners are not allowed to keep personal photographs, letters, or any items that might remind them of their past lives. Unlike in some prisons where inmates may be permitted to receive small personal effects, Black Dolphin enforces complete isolation from personal connections. No reminders of family, no pictures of loved ones, no personal artifacts, nothing that could provide even the smallest comfort. The goal is to make sure inmates understand that their past lives are gone and they will never regain them. This loss of identity extends to verbal communication as well. Inmates are strictly forbidden from speaking unless they are spoken to by a guard or prison official. Even then, they are expected to respond only with their number and in the shortest possible manner. Conversations between inmates are not allowed, ensuring that they do not form relationships or share personal stories. Over time, this forced silence causes a deterioration of their mental state, further solidifying the prison's grip on their psychological well-being. The prison also enforces a strict uniform policy. Every prisoner wears the same identical uniform, with no distinguishing marks beyond their assigned number. There is no personalization, no variation, just the same dull, standard-issue attire that blends every inmate into the collective mass of Black Dolphin's forgotten souls. Prisoners are denied personal identity, referred to only by numbers. At Black Dolphin Prison, one of the most devastating aspects of incarceration is the complete erasure of personal identity. From the moment an inmate enters the facility, they are stripped of their name, their past, their individuality, and any sense of personal dignity. The Russian penal system ensures that those imprisoned at Black Dolphin do not just lose their freedom, they lose their very existence as people. Here, they're no longer men with histories, emotions, or names. Instead, they are reduced to nothing more than a prison number, a faceless entity confined to a small cage for the rest of their days. This dehumanization process begins immediately upon arrival. The prisoner is blindfolded, shackled, and marched in a bent-over position to disorient them, reinforcing their complete lack of control over their surroundings. Upon intake, they are no longer referred to by their birth name or any personal identifiers. Guards, officials, and prison staff address them only by their assigned number, ensuring that any sense of past identity is erased as quickly as possible. In many prisons around the world, even the most dangerous criminals retain some aspect of their identity, whether through interactions with fellow inmates, access to personal belongings, or even through occasional media coverage. However, Black Dolphin operates differently. There is no recognition of an inmate's previous life. Whether they were once powerful figures in the criminal underworld, infamous serial killers, or high-profile terrorists, none of it matters within these walls. Their past, their crimes, their notoriety, all are irrelevant. Inside Black Dolphin, they are nothing but a number. This forced anonymity extends to every aspect of daily life. Prisoners are forbidden from using their own names in any capacity. Even in the rare instances where they're spoken to by guards, they must refer to themselves only by their assigned number. They are never addressed personally, nor are they allowed to acknowledge their past identities in any way. There is no communication between inmates, no friendships, and no social hierarchy. Every prisoner exists in complete isolation, surrounded only by walls, bars, and the relentless gaze of surveillance cameras. The prison's strict communication ban reinforces this loss of identity. Inmates are not allowed to speak unless directly ordered to do so. They may not interact with one another, call out, or even whisper. If they break this rule, they face immediate punishment, often in the form of even stricter confinement or loss of their already limited privileges. This enforced silence ensures that no inmate can form bonds, share memories, or even acknowledge their own humanity. Over time, they become ghosts of their former selves, silent, nameless figures existing only within the prison's walls. Personal possessions are strictly forbidden. Unlike in some prisons where inmates may be allowed to keep family photos, letters, or books, Black Dolphin provides no such comforts. There are no photographs of loved ones, no mementos from the outside world, and no personal effects of any kind. Inmates are not even allowed to keep letters from family members, as these could serve as a reminder of the life they once had. This complete disconnection from their past ensures that prisoners lose all sense of personal history, further reinforcing their status as nameless, forgotten souls. Even the prison uniforms play a role in stripping prisoners of individuality. Every inmate wears identical clothing, with no distinguishing marks beyond their assigned number. There are no personal touches, no unique elements, just a standard uniform that reinforces their faceless existence. The lack of variation ensures that prisoners do not develop any sense of self-identity through their appearance. The psychological toll of this enforced anonymity is immense. Over time, prisoners begin to lose any connection to who they once were. Deprived of their names, their voices, and their personal histories, many begin to feel as though they no longer exist as people. The prison system does not just confine their bodies, it erases their very sense of self. The lack of human interaction, the forced silence, and the stripping of all personal identity create a profound sense of hopelessness. This extreme dehumanization is deliberate. The Russian authorities designed Black Dolphin to be more than just a prison. It is a place where the most dangerous criminals are completely erased from society. They are not just locked away, they are forgotten. The prison ensures that they never again experience anything resembling normal human existence. They do not exist as men, only as numbers, destined to remain nameless and alone until the day they die. Inmates have no contact with the outside world, no visits, no letters, and no phone calls. At Black Dolphin Prison, isolation is total and absolute. Unlike many high-security prisons that allow restricted communication with family members, legal representatives, or even occasional media interactions, Black Dolphin enforces a complete blackout from the outside world. Prisoners are cut off entirely. No visits, no letters, no phone calls, and no interaction with anyone beyond the prison staff. This extreme level of isolation is part of what makes Black Dolphin one of the most psychologically crushing prisons in existence. From the moment an inmate enters Black Dolphin, they're erased from society. There are no scheduled visitation days, no monitored phone privileges, and no mail service. Even the most basic forms of human connection, such as receiving a letter from a family member or hearing the voice of a loved one, are denied. It does not matter whether an inmate has family on the outside who wants to reach out. It does not matter if they have children, parents, or spouses hoping to maintain some kind of contact. Once they are inside Black Dolphin, they are gone, permanently removed from the world beyond the prison walls. This complete ban on communication serves multiple purposes. From a security standpoint, it ensures that prisoners cannot pass messages to the outside world, coordinate escapes, or continue any criminal enterprises from within the facility. However, the true impact of this policy goes beyond just security. It is a deliberate tool of psychological warfare. Human beings are social creatures, and even the most hardened criminals rely on some form of human connection to maintain their sanity. By eliminating all contact with the outside world, Black Dolphin systematically strips inmates of hope. They are left with nothing but their own thoughts, trapped in a cold, unchanging environment where no messages of love, regret, or encouragement ever reach them. Over time, this forced isolation leads to deep psychological distress. Many inmates lose any sense of time, purpose, or even identity, existing only as nameless figures trapped within the prison's walls. Unlike in other prisons where inmates can receive news updates or occasional correspondence, Black Dolphin ensures that prisoners have no idea what is happening beyond their cells. They do not know if their families are still waiting for them, if the world has changed, or if their names are even remembered. There are no newspapers, no radio broadcasts, and no television updates. The outside world might as well not exist. Even legal interactions are heavily restricted. Inmates serving life sentences have no chance of parole or appeal, making legal representation meaningless. Unlike in some systems where prisoners might have occasional access to lawyers or advocacy groups, Black Dolphin operates under a system where no outside influence can reach them. Their fate is sealed the moment they enter, and there is no mechanism for reconsideration or clemency. For many inmates, the worst part of Black Dolphin is not the physical confinement, but the psychological torture of complete isolation. They know that no one is coming for them, no one is writing to them, and no one will ever hear their voice again. The lack of human interaction beyond the commands of guards creates a profound sense of abandonment. Prisoners are also forbidden from having any form of written communication among themselves. There are no notes, no messages passed through cells, no whispered conversations. This ensures that even inside the prison, they remain as isolated as possible. They cannot form friendships, share their stories, or even acknowledge each other's presence in any meaningful way. This absolute removal from the outside world is one of the key reasons why Black Dolphin is considered one of the most brutal prisons in existence. It is not just a facility where criminals are locked away. It is a place where they are effectively erased, forced to live out the remainder of their lives in total solitude, forgotten by the world beyond the prison's unbreakable walls. Prisoners follow a strict daily routine with no deviation, reinforcing psychological control. Life inside Black Dolphin Prison is defined by one unbreakable rule: absolute control. Every moment of an inmate's existence is governed by a rigid, militarized routine that never changes. There are no special privileges, no days off, and no deviation from the schedule. Every prisoner follows the same exact routine every single day, with the precision of a machine. This enforced structure is designed to strip away any sense of autonomy, leaving inmates completely submissive to the system. The day begins at 6 a.m. sharp, when prisoners are ordered to wake up. Unlike in some prisons where inmates might be allowed to wake up on their own or have some flexibility in their morning routines, Black Dolphin offers no such leniency. The moment the wake-up order is given, prisoners must immediately stand at attention beside their beds. There is no stretching, no yawning, and certainly no hesitation. Guards expect complete obedience, and any delay is met with immediate consequences. Breakfast is a simple, stay-controlled ration consisting of thin soup and bread. There is no choice, no variety, and no personal preference. The meals are purely functional, designed to keep prisoners alive, but never comfortable. Nutrition is strictly regulated to ensure that inmates maintain enough physical strength to survive, but remain in a state of permanent deprivation. The food is bland, repetitive, and entirely devoid of pleasure. Yet another tool in the prison's arsenal of psychological control. After breakfast, inmates are subjected to a series of cell inspections and searches. Every single day, their cells are meticulously examined to ensure that nothing has been altered, hidden, or tampered with. Even though escape is considered impossible due to the prison's extreme security measures, guards take no chances. They check for signs of resistance, contraband, or any attempt to disrupt the strict order of the prison. This constant surveillance reinforces the idea that the prisoner has no private space, no control over their environment, and no chance of rebelling in even the smallest way. Following inspections, prisoners are forced to engage in mandatory exercise. However, unlike in many prisons where inmates have access to gym equipment or outdoor yards, exercise at Black Dolphin is highly controlled and severely limited. Prisoners are typically confined to pacing back and forth inside their tiny cells for a set period, often under strict supervision. They are not allowed to engage in any activities that could provide even a small sense of enjoyment. There are no sports, no group exercises, and certainly no recreational activities. The purpose of exercise is not to improve their well-being, but to ensure they remain physically capable of enduring their life sentences. Throughout the day, prisoners are required to remain in complete silence. Unlike in other prisons where inmates may be allowed to speak to each other in designated areas, Black Dolphin enforces a strict no-communication policy. The only voices they hear are those of the guards giving commands. If an inmate is spoken to, they must respond immediately and concisely, using only their assigned number. They are not permitted to engage in casual conversation, whisper, or make any noise beyond what is strictly necessary. This rule is brutally enforced, ensuring that prisoners remain in a permanent state of submission and isolation. Lunch follows the same pattern as breakfast, a simple, tasteless meal designed solely to sustain life. There are no changes to the menu, no special occasions, and no extra portions. Prisoners eat mechanically, knowing that every meal will be the same for the rest of their lives. This repetition reinforces the crushing reality of their existence. There is no variety, no pleasure, and no hope for change. For the remainder of the day, prisoners are left in their cells under constant surveillance. They're not allowed to lie down or rest on their beds during the day. Instead, they must either stand or sit upright on the small stool provided, ensuring that they never experience even a moment of comfort. This rule is meant to keep prisoners in a state of continuous discipline, preventing them from slipping into daydreams or moments of mental escape. By keeping them physically and mentally exhausted, the prison ensures that resistance becomes impossible. Dinner is served in the same cold, mechanical fashion as the other meals, after which prisoners are once again subjected to inspections and security checks. As night falls, the routine remains unbroken. There is no free time, no entertainment, and no relaxation. The prison does not allow televisions, radios, or newspapers, ensuring that prisoners remain completely disconnected from the outside world. They do not know what is happening beyond the prison walls, nor do they have any way of finding out. At lights out, prisoners are ordered to lie on their beds, facing upward, with their hands visible at all times. There's no shifting, no turning to the side, and no hiding under blankets. Guards patrol the cells continuously, ensuring that no one deviates from the mandated sleeping position. Even in sleep, the prisoners are never truly free. This unrelenting daily routine repeats itself endlessly, with no variation, no special occasions, and no possibility of change. Whether a prisoner has been there for 5 years or 20, each day is identical to the last. There is no weekend, no holiday, no reprieve. The routine is not just about maintaining order. It is about breaking the human spirit. By stripping prisoners of even the smallest choices and enforcing absolute control over every second of their existence, Black Dolphin turns its inmates into mere shadows of their former selves, lost in an endless cycle of monotony and despair. Constant surveillance ensures that prisoners are never unobserved, depriving them of any sense of privacy. Inside Black Dolphin Prison, privacy does not exist. Every second of an inmate's life is monitored, controlled, and scrutinized. From the moment they wake up to the moment they fall asleep, and even throughout the night, prisoners are under constant surveillance. Unlike in lower security prisons where inmates may have moments of solitude, Black Dolphin allows no such luxury. Every movement, every breath, every action is observed, ensuring that prisoners never experience even a fleeting sense of freedom. Each cell is equipped with 24/7 surveillance cameras, positioned strategically to provide an unobstructed view of the entire space. There are no blind spots, no areas where prisoners can hide from the unrelenting gaze of the security system. The cameras do not just record. They're actively monitored at all times by guards stationed in surveillance rooms. If a prisoner moves even slightly in a way deemed suspicious, guards are alerted instantly, and action is taken without hesitation. The design of the cells themselves reinforces the idea that privacy is a forgotten concept. The small, windowless rooms contain nothing that could serve as a barrier between the prisoner and the ever-present cameras. Even the toilet, a basic human necessity, is fully visible to surveillance. There are no partitions, no doors, and no attempts to provide a semblance of dignity. Inmates are forced to relieve themselves under the watchful eye of the guards, further stripping them of their last remaining shreds of personal autonomy. Routine security checks intensify this lack of privacy. Every 15 minutes, guards patrol the corridors, looking through the small, reinforced peepholes on each cell door. These frequent inspections ensure that prisoners are never truly alone, not even for a few moments. Whether they are awake, asleep, eating, or sitting in silence, the presence of the guards is inescapable. The knowledge that they are being watched at all times is a form of psychological torment, reminding them that they have no control over their own existence. When prisoners are removed from their cells, the surveillance does not stop. It becomes even more intense. Every movement outside their cells is heavily controlled, monitored, and recorded. When inmates are transferred from one location to another, they must assume the infamous Black Dolphin stance, bent over at a 90-degree angle, blindfolded, and escorted by multiple guards. This position serves multiple purposes. It prevents prisoners from getting a sense of their surroundings, reinforces their complete submission, and ensures that they remain vulnerable at all times. The entire prison operates like a well-oiled machine of surveillance and control. Guards do not interact with inmates beyond giving strict orders, and every command must be followed with immediate obedience. There is no opportunity for prisoners to communicate secretly, no dark corners where whispered conversations can take place, and no moments of respite from the watchful eyes of security personnel. Even at night, the constant surveillance does not waver. Prisoners must sleep on their backs, with their hands visible at all times. Any attempt to cover their faces or shift into a more comfortable position is immediately noticed and corrected by guards. This rigid sleeping regulation ensures that inmates remain under control even in their most vulnerable state. The psychological effects of this relentless surveillance are profound. Humans naturally crave privacy, even in the most minimal form. The ability to be alone with one's thoughts, to experience moments of solitude, or to have control over one's own body is essential to maintaining a sense of self. Black Dolphin strips away all of these fundamental needs, leaving prisoners in a state of permanent psychological subjugation. Over time, this extreme loss of privacy takes a devastating toll. Inmates begin to lose their sense of individuality, feeling as though they exist only as objects under observation. The inability to express themselves, to move freely, or to even close their eyes without regulation destroys any remaining sense of autonomy. The knowledge that they are being watched at all times creates a feeling of paranoia, helplessness, and resignation. For the guards and administrators of Black Dolphin, this level of surveillance is not just about security, is about control. It ensures that prisoners are never given the opportunity to resist, rebel, or even mentally escape from their reality. By eliminating privacy in every possible form, the prison guarantees that inmates remain utterly broken, existing only within the confines of the system's unyielding grip. No prisoner has ever escaped, reinforcing the prison's reputation as an inescapable fortress. Black Dolphin Prison is not just one of the most secure facilities in Russia. It is one of the most impenetrable prisons in the world. Over the decades, prisons across the globe have seen daring escape attempts, some successful and others ending in disaster. But in the long and brutal history of Black Dolphin, not a single inmate has ever escaped. This perfect record is not a coincidence. It is a result of the prison's ruthless design, relentless security measures, and total psychological control over its inmates. The fortress-like structure of the prison itself is the first layer of its inescapable design. Located in the remote Orenburg region near the Kazakh border, Black Dolphin is surrounded by vast stretches of open land, making escape nearly impossible even if someone were to breach the heavily fortified walls. There are no nearby cities, no dense forests to hide in, and no easy routes to freedom. Even if an inmate miraculously managed to get past the multiple layers of security, they would face a harsh, unforgiving landscape with nowhere to go and no one to help them. The prison's high-security perimeter is another formidable barrier. Massive concrete walls, topped with razor wire and patrolled by armed guards, enclose the entire facility. Motion sensors, infrared cameras, and security checkpoints are positioned at every possible entry and exit point. Even before stepping inside the main prison building, an escapee would have to bypass these virtually insurmountable defenses, all while under constant surveillance. Once inside, the layers of security only multiply. The prison is divided into multiple highly restricted sections, each separated by steel-barred gates, electronically locked doors, and multiple guard stations. Every prisoner movement is tightly controlled. Inmates are never allowed to move freely, even within the facility. They are escorted everywhere, shackled and bent forward in the Black Dolphin stance, surrounded by officers who maintain a vice-like grip on their arms. The cells themselves are designed to be inescapable. Each cell is essentially a prison within a prison, featuring multiple reinforced steel doors, barred windows, and thick concrete walls. Unlike in some prisons where inmates might have access to tools or areas that could be exploited for escape attempts, Black Dolphin allows for no such opportunities. There is nothing inside the cells that an inmate could manipulate, no weak points in the structure, and no opportunities for tunneling or breaching the walls. The round-the-clock surveillance further ensures that no escape plan can even begin to take shape. With security cameras monitoring every inch of every cell 24/7, there is no moment when a prisoner is unwatched. Any attempt to tamper with the walls, doors, or locks would be detected instantly. Guards patrol the corridors at regular intervals, peering into each cell to confirm that every inmate is exactly where they should be. The prison operates with an unwavering routine, leaving no room for prisoners to exploit gaps or weaknesses. Additionally, Black Dolphin houses some of the most dangerous criminals in Russia: serial killers, terrorists, cannibals, and organized crime bosses. These are not small-time offenders with a few years left on their sentences. Every prisoner is serving a life sentence, with no chance of parole, no appeal process, and no hope of ever walking free. Unlike in other prisons where an inmate might risk an escape attempt knowing they could resume a normal life, the men inside Black Dolphin have no external support, no allies waiting on the outside, and no resources to aid in an escape. The psychological control imposed by the prison is just as effective as its physical barriers. Inmates are stripped of their names, denied contact with the outside world, and subjected to relentless routines designed to break their spirits. Over time, they become so accustomed to their oppressive existence that the very idea of escape becomes unthinkable. They're not just physically trapped, they are mentally conditioned to accept that Black Dolphin is where they will die. The guards are trained to be uncompromising, hypervigilant, and utterly ruthless in maintaining order. Any sign of resistance, defiance, or suspicion of escape planning is met with immediate and overwhelming force. There is no negotiation, no tolerance for misbehavior, and no leniency. Punishment is swift and severe, ensuring that even the thought of escaping carries unbearable consequences. Throughout its history, not a single inmate has managed to breach the walls of Black Dolphin. There have been no daring breakouts, no elaborate plans unraveled, and no dramatic stories of fugitives fleeing into the wilderness. Instead, every prisoner who enters remains there until their final breath, trapped within a fortress built not just to contain them, but to erase any notion of escape from their minds altogether. Black Dolphin Prison is more than just a high-security facility. It is a place designed to break the human spirit. Every element of its existence, from the relentless surveillance to the extreme isolation and the crushing routine, serves one purpose: to ensure that prisoners are completely controlled, both physically and mentally. For the men locked inside, there is no future, no hope, and no escape. The walls of Black Dolphin are not just barriers of concrete and steel, they are barriers of the mind, stripping away any sense of identity, autonomy, or resistance. No prisoner has ever escaped, not just because of the impenetrable security, but because Black Dolphin ensures that escape becomes an impossibility, even in thought. In the end, Black Dolphin is not merely a prison. It is a living tomb, a place where Russia's most dangerous criminals disappear, never to be heard from again. Whether one sees it as a necessary institution for justice or as a brutal machine of human suffering, one thing remains certain: once you enter Black Dolphin, you never leave.